Okay, folks, it's straight 7 minutes section with Jonny Sexton, Ireland captain, live content. Thank you.
Hi, Jonny.
Hello.
What are your feelings after that? Does it feel like, or can you just talk through the last minutes from your point of view?
Yeah, well, with 10 minutes to go, I didn't see the game unfolding like that. But international rugby throws things at you that you don't expect sometimes. I thought we dominated large parts of the game, but I suppose when they had their small purple patches, they scored. I think when we're 14 points up and we concede that try, it just changes the game again, and we just need to be better there. We had a kick-off receive we didn't deal well with. We had a line out that we didn't deal well with, and then we missed a tackle that we should have done better. So, as good as team as Scotland are, we have to look at ourselves first and foremost, and I need to improve, because if you have a 14-point lead in international rugby, you need to, the next moment is the most important one, and you can finish the game, not finish the game, but you can, put a statement down by top teams. I think, and that's they take the kick off, they clear their lines, and then they put pressure on again. That we're just short of that at the moment. We'd have to ask, everyone in the team. We rely on each other, but it's asking each other at that moment. What was your thoughts? What was your process? What was, why did you make the mistake? Why, you know what I mean? So we need to figure all these things out together. Sometimes it can just be an error, you know what I mean? And that's team sport. And but we've talked about, keeping each other in the moment more by communicating better and by, talking. Realising that the moment in front of you is the most important, not getting lost in the past. I thought when we got that second try to go 14 up, we just lost concentration for a few moments.
What's going through your head on standing over the last week?
I was brilliant by Ryan Baird, wasn't it? Like to get the charge down. He's so explosive first couple of steps, and then to make the tackle that he does, which allows, I don't even know who got on the poach. Ian Henderson, who's outstanding as well. So for him to get on the poach, and obviously then it's you gotta have to kick it. Kicked pretty well all game. It wasn't my best of the day. My best of the day probably hit the post, but it was enough. I was trying to keep it just a little bit lower. It was quite blustery in the stadium, but it was a good enough strike to get over, and thankfully we get the 4 points, which is very important, and we're up to second now, so big end to the tournament next week. Thanks.
Hey Jonny, can you just tell us what was said under the post after Hamish Watson's try? What was the message? I mean, it must have been a bit of a shock to the system to lose 14 points like that so close to the end, but what was said there after that try?
It's again just to win, everyone do their job and win the next moment. We conceded points to Wales in a similar fashion, 2 tries after half time, which changed the game totally, and similar kind of, us not, exiting well enough, missing tackle. At international rugby, you need teams to work incredibly hard. I think Scotland did that for their second try, but the first one was a sucker punch. But anyway, we're delighted with the win. It's a very tough place to come, where we feel they're top team Scotland, and they've shown that with some of the results over the last while and performances, and we'll take a win here any day of the week.
I've just spoken to Paul O'Connell yet, just looking at some of the line out stats. You disrupted 6 of 8 line out throws by Scotland, which really helped you to gain dominance in the game.
Yeah, the forwards have been outstanding for the last 4 games, you know what I mean, and they did a great job tonight. I think what we did with that ball at times wasn't good enough. Some of the turnover ball, you want to make that your best source of possession, and we turned the ball over straight away at times, which is frustrating because it's something that we've been working on really hard. So we'll look at that. We'll look at the video, and like I said, there's plenty to get better at.
Has he made a noticeable difference from your point of view, from Paul's impact on the forwards so far?
Yeah, it's pretty clear, isn't it? Like the impact that he's had. Obviously, we played against Wales with 7 forwards, but the lads were still outstanding, and it's not just his work around the line out. It's his presence around all parts of the game and the ruck and the line running that the forwards do. That Faz and Paulie work really hard with the forwards. You saw some of that today where they were tipping the ball on, punching really well into holes, and it's just what we do after that is what we need to just get better at.
Thanks, Johnny. Enjoy that, mate.
Johnny, you know all about beating England in Dublin. Have you seen enough evidence now in the last few weeks that you're ready to put in the kind of performance that's needed to win that game?
Well, we'll find out next Saturday, won't we? We feel that we've been building. We feel that parts of our we feel we were a little bit unlucky in the first couple of games, but we're playing against even though they've had a couple of bad results. The team that was in a World Cup final, the team that won the Grand Slam last year, or Six Nations last year, the team won the Autumn Nations Cup, so they're a top team, and we've to prove that we can match them and put in a performance to beat one of the top teams, because we haven't done it as of yet.
How will you approach this week in terms of the messages to the players? Will you focus more on the fact that you were 14 points up and you ended up in a position where you needed this unbelievable character and a big play from two of your forwards, and then your own bottle to kick the penalty? Like, is the positive of rescuing the situation, or is it the kind of worry of not being able to manage that situation when you're 14 points up?
We'll review the game like we review. There's never one tone to the review. Like, there's always things that you want to get better at. There's always things that you need to improve, and sometimes the frustrating thing is when you're making the same mistakes that we've highlighted over the first few weeks. So that's the frustrating part. But we'll look at the good things. We'll look at the bad things. We'll look at when we're 14 points up, what we can do better. And it won't be one tone to the review. It'll be show the good things and the bad things like we always do.
Okay, guys, thanks, Johnny. We're gonna have to bring in Andy now.
Cheers. Thanks, lads.
How we doing?
Andy,
Hi there.
could you sum up your sense of that Ireland performance?
I suppose my overriding feeling is one of pride, really. I thought, when things were not quite going the way at the business end of the game, it's the last 10 minutes is where it could have been won and lost. To come back from a few slip ups, error wise, etc. From the restart, the line out, and defensively let things slip a little bit, and then to defend your own line like we did, time and time again, just knocking them back, getting back off the floor, and obviously they got the 7 points to draw the game. It would take down a few teams mentally, but they stayed together. They refocused, they regrouped, great kick-off, good chase, good pressure, and they stayed next moment focused, and we got the turnover. And big game players, that's what they do. They take responsibility, and Johnny put over the points. So we'll pick it apart like we always do. There's plenty to work on, as always. But one of pride. Why? Because everyone knows Scotland are a good tide, and nobody finds it easy coming here and getting away with a victory. Never mind with the form that they've been in. So, I've been here plenty of times and struggled with most teams that we've been up here with. So really proud to get the win. Really proud in the way that we started the game and ended the game. But obviously, there's things to work on.
Johnny referenced the kind of string of errors when they got back to 24-all. Why do you think that's happening when your team got in such a strong position?
Well, look, I thought sometimes it's just a error of judgment, isn't it? And sometimes you take a gamble where you leave the kick, you think it's going into touch, and so did the touch judge as well. But the TMO brought that back, and I suppose rightly so. And then there's other ones that obviously compounded the errors, then give them back access. I suppose you know, did we compound the errors, or are those errors in isolation? I suppose we'll have to look at that, because, as I said, I thought we defended pretty well throughout the game, other than one or two slip-ups that give them big access. And I suppose that's the international game, isn't it? You know, you miss a tackle, you 7 points under your post.
It was James Lowe who obviously missed one of those tackles and had a few errors today. Is he struggling to get up to test level speed, or is that just what happens when players get gassed this time?
Again, we'll sit down with James, and obviously there's others as well that we need to sit down with and keep educating them regarding what international football's all about. There are guys that are in there that are very young as far as their experience is concerned, but to come up here, for anyone to come over here and experience a win at Murrayfield is something that they'll be proud of. I'm sure they'll look back on. But as far as progressing James's game, I suppose we'll help him like we'll help everyone else as well. Thanks.
Andy, can I just ask why you didn't bring Conor Murray on?
We had quite a few knocks and ifs and buts that were on the field. 2 or 3 lads that were hanging on in there, and sometimes if you make a change to a fit player, then you can come unstuck, you know. So it's the way it goes from time to time, and it's the same with Billy as well.
Anna, can I just ask you about the impact that Paul O'Connell's had in the group so far, what he's been like to work with, and whether even perhaps Warren might think of bringing him as a coach in the Lions tour this summer, wherever that might be?
Well, look, he's been top class. That's why we brought him in. You know, I've known Paul for quite some time now. I know how serious he is about his rugby, and everyone else does. So, I suppose this is his first time, obviously, at international rugby. He's still learning the ropes and doing a fantastic job at the same time, which is all credit to him, his work ethic and his knowledge, etc., and how he is with the boys. But what I would say is, Paul would be the first person to acknowledge the work that Simon Easterby had done when Paul came in. Paul's been on record during the week saying that he's been happy to facilitate some of the stuff that's already there. And he'll also, I'm sure he'll be out in the week, he'll also be the first to say regarding the defensive line out, it's the ownership of the players that matter, and they have drove that side of the line out superbly well. And Paul will be the first to say that. In fact, he's just told me to say that in the changing room because it's true. As far as the defensive line out is concerned, James Ryan has really took control of that and stepped up, and that's what we want from the boys, taking ownership and leading.
Andy, sorry.
No, for you.
Sorry, yeah, thanks, Jerry. Just wondering, what have you made of England's campaign so far? I don't know, have you been able to put your finger on why they have struggled in some games and, you know, struggled for consistency? Have you identified an area that you can work on one of their weaknesses for next week? Have you spotted anything in particular?
Well, I suppose as far as the English are concerned, they'll certainly reference their performance next week on what happened in the last performance, won't they? And I suppose you know, for all the purists of rugby, I thought it was an outstanding game, and both teams were deserved winners in the end. But I thought England played some outstanding rugby, and so did France. So I suppose that's the team that we've got coming over. Regarding their campaign so far, I suppose that's for them to talk about, not us.
Okay, guys, we're going to have to wrap it up there. Sorry, Michael. We have to wrap it up there. The Scots are on their way in. Thanks.
Okay.
Right,
Thanks,
Dave, can I just check one thing? Andy, have you any injury news? Has James Ryan, was that an HIA? Or
Yeah, HIA, check Jerry, yeah. HIA.
That's concerning given it's only a 6-day turnaround.
Well, we'll see. I don't know what the protocols has been like after the game, but yeah, there was a check there.
Any other injury concerns?
There was a few walking wounded, like I said. I mean, honestly, to be fair to Jonny, he was cramping in that last 5-10 minutes as well. To step up to the plate and kick the goal when you're in that sort of state as well makes the 3 points even more special. Gary Ringrose was hanging on there with an ankle, but they all seemed in fine spirits anyway.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks.
Thank you.